announcing my candidacy for mayor of the city. Mark my words. My values and my commitment to build a better, more inclusive Chicago has never wavered.
Garcia making another run for the mayor's office, joining an already crowded field, aiming to unseat Mayor Lori Lightfoot in her bid for a second term. Garcia has deep roots in Chicago, attempting to follow the playbook of the late Mayor Harold Washington by putting together a diverse coalition. He forced Mayor Rahm Emanuel into a runoff in his first try in 2015. It's just about 3 months until the mayoral election. WGN political analyst Paul Lisnek joining us to talk about the current state of the race, what it means now, and Chuy Garcia officially in there. I mean, he was the mayor. He could be the mayor's biggest threat right now. He did back the mayor back in 2018, and he's also considered a progressive Democrat.
Well, there's a lot of progressive Democrats in this race, Micah, and you're right. He was the 2015 challenger to Rahm Emanuel, forcing that into a runoff. Garcia's also done some of his own polling here, which is, I think, encouraged him to do this. It showed him in second in position. As she was at, I think, according to his polls, like 25%. He was significantly below that, but he was next in line. So that gave him the momentum to go. Sort of interesting that he kind of waited, what, 2 days after winning his re-election.
Well, that's the thing. Is that a slap in the face to the people in his district?
Yeah. Well, you know, here's the thing. The district members could be upset about that by saying, why did you ran and now you want this other job? On the other hand, they might say, look, we appreciate, we understand what you're doing, but let's put it this way. If he doesn't make it for mayor, he falls back on the Congress job, and I guess his view would be he will continue to serve the public.
That's exactly what Mayor Lightfoot said in reacting to that today. But talk more about that. The calculated risk that this is for Garcia, versus giving up his congressional seat for the possibility of losing for a second time at this office.
Well, look, if I were Mayor Lightfoot or some of the other candidates, I might, talk about that a little bit and to basically say, why did you run for Congress if this is the job you want? Or is this really more about you just making sure you have employment one way or the other? I don't mean to be unfair to Garcia because, again, lots of people would do what he did, right? If you're running for office and you get your re-election, then move on if you want and you're a little bit safe. But look, he enters a crowded field. He clearly enters as one of the front runners, to be sure. And we often look when we talk to the mayor's race about the racial factors, and he's Latino, but he's not the only one. Raymond Lopez is in there, lots of African Americans in this race. So part of the question is going to be is how much, to the extent people vote with race as a concern, how much is it splitting up the vote? And with, at this point, 12 candidates, exactly, quite a bit is the risk. And there's still 4 more we're looking at who could enter the race.
Pat Quinn, former
Pat
Governor
Quinn, who was
Pat
with
Quinn.
us on election night, not quite saying it yet, but Tom Tunney, alderman of the 44th Ward, and LaShawn Ford, who tried this before a short amount of time in the past where he thought about getting in. And then also Brian Hopkins, alderman of the 2nd Ward.
How's the dynamic shifted during Mayor Lightfoot's term that suggests maybe the outcome could be different this time around for Chuy Garcia?
Well, part of what I think gives you the sense of what is going on is to just listen to what Chuy Garcia said today. Everybody who's making this run, and if Pat Quinn does do it, you see this focus on the I'm going to get along with people. One of the challenges to Mayor Lightfoot for at least city council members is people say it's a very contentious atmosphere. She's difficult to work with. Now, most people in the city don't necessarily work directly with her, but that's the word of people who do. We're seeing this exodus from city council for a variety of reasons, I suppose, but that may be one of them. Tom Tunney himself has just said it's a very contentious atmosphere around there. So, the point is you saw Chuy Garcia talk about building a coalition, working with people, emphasizing a progressive agenda. And look, there's, his agenda is not all that far away from Brandon Johnson, the Cook County Commissioner, who's also running, who already has the backing,
lots
as
of endorsements,
CTU, one of the branches of the SEIU, and apparently lots Garcia had reached out to some of these progressives in the past before they went and endorsed Jackson, but they didn't do it. Johnson, I mean, but they didn't do it. So we'll see.
How likely is it that the two, Chuy Garcia and Mayor Lightfoot, would end in a runoff?
Well, right now, if you look at the polls, that's kind of where it would go. Well, here's the best answer to that question. If anybody's able to get over 50%, then there is no runoff. I think we always talk about the runoff, but there is a chance if somebody gets over 50%. But there isn't a poll right now I've seen that shows her or anybody at over 50%. And that's why we say, come April, there's going to be a runoff. She herself is only polling at about 25%, so she's halfway there. A lot can change between now and then. I always remind people, never forget when Mayor Lightfoot first announced early on, I moderated one of those early debates, she was at 3%. Nobody knew who she was. And well, she's up here as one of the candidates, but she's not a player. And then you went, no, you better keep an eye on her, and sure enough.
Yep, Paul Lisnek on a very busy political week.
It's been quiet, hasn't it? Thank you,
All right,
guys.
see you later.